For this month's Liquid and Grit RPG report, we looked at a new trivia minigame in Rise of Kingdoms called Peerless Scholar. In this feature, players progress through 3 tiers of quizzes about world history and game mechanics during a month-long season. Preliminary quizzes consist of 10 untimed questions and can be taken once per weekday. Players who correctly answer 6 or more questions qualify for that week's midterm, which takes place every Saturday. Midterms contain 15 questions, but unlike in the preliminary quizzes, each has a 10 to 15 second timer. Players who get all 15 questions right unlock a final exam held on the last Saturday of the month. Rise of Kingdoms saw monthly revenue increase by 20% after the initial launch of the event. Peerless Scholar uses simple but effective narrative devices to frame the minigame. In order to participate, players must first construct and visit a new building, the Lyceum of Wisdom, which grounds the feature in the game world. Then, the progression of preliminary, midterm, and final exams, complete with scheduled time slots, adds further immersion by mimicking a real academy. This kind of narrative framing is more than just window dressing. In our study of over 1,400 mobile RPG players, immersion was tied for the most significant player motivation, and story elements made up 4 of the 5 most commonly cited reasons for continuing to play a game. Narratives can improve goal retention too. In a narrative experiment by psychologists at the University of Melbourne, researchers primed 2 groups of participants by having them unscramble short sentences containing key words. The experimental group's sentences formed a simple story, while the control groups did not. Each group was then assigned a word puzzle with a theme based on those key words. Both groups performed similarly when researchers assigned the puzzle immediately after the priming task. However, when given the puzzle after a 5-minute delay instead, the experimental group outperformed the control by 21%, suggesting that narratives can significantly increase the duration of goals. Trivia minigames often choose to focus exclusively on game lore and mechanics, likely in an attempt to broaden their appeal. Although it may be tempting to try to draw in players who don't like trivia, this may just end up alienating the players who do like trivia and are most likely to enjoy the feature. And while trivia may not be for everyone, it's still quite popular, particularly during lockdown. The top-grossing trivia app on iOS, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, has seen US monthly revenue more than double since the beginning of social distancing measures, from $218,000 in February to $492,000 in May. Peerless Scholar stands out by quizzing players on real-world history. According to one player we interviewed about the feature, whoever wrote those questions understands the player base because there are historical elements that are central to Rise of Kingdoms, and players really like that. In addition to some legitimately hard history questions, the app cranks up the difficulty as players progress by adding timers and removing lifelines. When asked about this, the same Peerless Scholar player responded, "If you can't fail, there is no challenge." Challenge-driven players, like Andrew Achievement, have a strong preference for thought-provoking minigames and are not afraid of failure. In fact, failure is often how they identify a serious challenge. As one such player said, "If I get irritated by a game, that's how I know I'm having fun." Liquid and Grit subscribers can download the full RPG Player Personas report by clicking the link in the description or by visiting liquidandgrit.com. Timers also keep players from looking up answers online. Not only does this prevent cheating, but it may even create a more enjoyable experience for players. A study of a simple shooter game found that adding a time limit significantly increased the experience of flow, a highly pleasurable state that occurs when players face a challenge that matches their skill level. Perhaps surprisingly, players who ran out of time reported the greatest increase in flow and engagement, even compared to those who succeeded within the time limit. It turns out that, at least for some players, failure can be fun. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to follow Liquid and Grit for more feature teardowns from RPG apps and other mobile genres like puzzle and casino, or visit liquidandgrit.com to subscribe for a full RPG report every month.